When it comes to photography, smartphones are only getting better. We have the Realme GT8 Pro here and the Vivo X200 Pro. Vivo X300 Pro is also coming out. And then we have travel-centric cameras like the Fuji X106. This costs upwards of 1.5 lakh, by the way, Indian market. And these phones, well, they cost a pretty penny too. But have you ever thought about how do these flagship smartphones actually compare to a dedicated travel-centric camera like the Fuji X106? Well, that is one question that has always troubled me. And now that I finally have all of these together, it made perfect sense for me to test out the low light performance, street photography performance, and the general quality that you can extract out of these flagship phones compared to a dedicated camera like this. So without much further ado, let's get started.
It is worth noting that the Fuji X106 uses a 23mm lens but with a 35mm full frame equivalent. So for this comparison, we shot using the primary cameras on both the Realme GT8 Pro and the Vivo X200 Pro. Starting with the images, one thing becomes immediately clear. The Fujifilm X106 may not look the brightest, but that's because it keeps things authentic. It doesn't lift the shadows aggressively, it maintains realistic highlights, and it avoids excessive color boosting. Even in this standard mode, colors remain slightly muted. In contrast, the X200 Pro often boosts colors, and the Realme GT8 Pro does even more so if you're not shooting in the Reco mode. Skin tones also appear more natural on the Fuji X106. The X200 Pro tends to brighten everything, making my friend's skin look a shade or two lighter here. In this shot of the goddess idol, the X100 renders it well thanks to the 35mm equivalent focal length, while the Realme GT8 Pro's wider primary lens brings in much more of the background. In this bike shot, the Fujifilm is noticeably warmer and closer to real life. The X200 Pro brightens and boosts colors, and most importantly, its output appears cooler. Because the X106 uses a larger APS-C sensor, you can also get more creative with depth of field, even though you are limited by the fixed 35mm focal length full frame equivalent and need to move around accordingly. In some situations, Fujifilm images may look dull compared to those from smartphones like the Realme, but shooting in RAW lets you adjust everything to your liking. We also shot some daylight samples, and here you will immediately notice how wide the Fujifilm lens feels. With the X200 Pro, we shot using the telephoto here for an exception, and it compresses the background straight away.
So Pushkar mein we ended up taking a lot of photos, both using these smartphones and the Fuji X106. And one common pattern that I observed was, which has been talked about time and again, that these phones, well, they tend to take perfect looking images. The highlights are perfect, the shadows are boosted, the skin tones, well, these do tend to brighten them up. But this behaves like a real camera because it is one. But ultimately, if you couple, like, let's say, recipes with this, you can get artistic looking results. But ultimately, it boils down to what you want out of a camera. If you want like really authentic looking images with imperfections, this is the one to get. This is what would appeal to real photography enthusiasts. But you can't deny the power that these phones possess right in your pocket. Because if you shoot using RAW, using these phones, you can mitigate through all of that digital noise, all of that perfection stuff that these phones tend to do. Another thing I would like to point out is that you are limited with the focal length when you buy a dedicated travel camera like the Fuji X106. These phones, well, you have multiple lenses, you have periscope lenses, so you can shoot a variety of images, but you will be, of course, limited with what you can do with the Fuji X106 and other cameras such as the Ricoh GR4, Ricoh GR3. So think about what you want out of the camera. You want versatility and don't want to fiddle with the images too much. These phones, they're hard to beat.